Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday morning, and I thought I'd take a walk down memory lane here in historic Cambridge, a university town where I live. I arrived in 1996. Oh, wow. As a student from Malaysia, it's pretty much the same now. Been so for the past 800 years. And that's nice when you have good memories of the people and the place. So this is my old college, Queen's College, famous for the mathematical bridge, that thing that looks like it's from IKEA. Famous also because of the New Testament, which was translated here. Many Christians don't know that. This guy named Desiderius Erasmus. Erasmus was a Queen scholar in 1511. He translated the Bible into Dutch, into Greek, at the time when the Bible was only in Latin, only in one language. He made the Bible readable and accessible using as many original sources as he could find. And the King James Bible was based on one of his translations, and all that happened here at Queen's. Next door to Queen's is King's. It's more impressive because of the chapel. I mean, that's how you know you're in Cambridge, when you take that classic photo in front of King's College Chapel. It was completed by King Henry VIII, King Henry with the 6 wives, lots of movies and dramas about him. The Anglican Church was formed under King Henry. It was breaking away from the Catholic Church. You probably knew that. But did you know that King Henry was awarded this title, the Defender of the Faith, by the Catholic Church? It's by the Catholic Church. He wrote this thesis defending the Catholic faith. And it just goes to show that Henry was a smart guy. He was a shrewd guy who knew what he was doing with all these changes that were happening with the church. But more important than this King Henry, was this student named Charles Simeon. Charles Simeon came to King's in 1779, I think. Charles Simeon was required as a student to take communion because he was an Anglican. All of them were compulsory, to take communion at least once, or I think it was once every year for 3 years. And it kind of freaked him out because he knew that he wasn't a Christian. Even though he was an Anglican, he was not a Christian, and he knew that at 20 years old. So what he did was he read a booklet about Jewish sacrifices. It was from Leviticus or something, this strange booklet about sacrifices in the Bible. And he became a Christian from reading this booklet because he understood how Christ was the true sacrifice on the cross, and that's how he became a Christian. 3 years later, he became a pastor. And it was of this church, this church just down the road from King's. It's called Holy Trinity. It's still here today. But man, back then, this church really, really hated him with a vengeance. This 23-year-old guy who, he didn't even know how to preach at all. And because of that, he went up to the front and he opened up his Bible and he said, okay, all I'm going to do, I'm just going to explain to you what I see in the Bible. I'm just going to teach you whatever I see in the Bible. And this gave birth to what is known as expository preaching today. Just explaining the text, explaining the Bible plainly to people in your sermon. But, his church, the people back then, they really did not like this. And they locked him out of his own church. They locked him out. They even locked the pews in the church. Simeon, he would put chairs in between the pews, but they threw those chairs out and they locked him out of the church. And they even threw eggs at him in the street. That's just how much they really hated this young pastor who was doing Bible study. But the students, they loved him. They loved him because of the Bible studies, something that pastors didn't really do back then. He taught them the Bible. And they loved him because he encouraged them as students, to take God's word seriously, even to go into full-time ministry, to go into full-time mission, teaching the Bible around the UK, translating the Bible all around the world. One of his students was this guy named Henry Martin. Henry Martin, who was a student as well at Cambridge. If anyone watching this, if you're from the Cambridge Chinese Christian Fellowship, CCCF, Henry Martin Hall, HMH, was our home, because it was a place for mission to internationals. I wish it was still that case today. Probably shouldn't say that, but things change. But that was home. It's a place where we as overseas students, we met, we learned the Bible, and I became a Christian through the CCCF, and I have so much to be thankful for this ministry here in Cambridge. Henry Martin, whose name is on this hall, he went to Calcutta after graduating, and he translated the Bible into Urdu, Persian, and Arabic, I think. But he died really young, at 31 years old, as this student. By the way, today I just watched this interview with this lady called Miss Moy. If you're from Malaysia, you know who she is. She's really, really famous. She's this encouraging teacher who's encouraged so many of the teachers and students. I knew her when I was a student in the Methodist Boys School in Kuala Lumpur. But actually, I mentioned that because watching this interview made me think about Cambridge, actually. Made me think, why did all these things, like the translation of the Bible, the beginning of student ministries, all these things, why did it happen here in Cambridge? And it made me think about how Miss Moy was a teacher. She was converted by her teachers. She wanted to be a doctor, but instead she became a teacher herself instead. And in doing so, she influenced many others to become Christians and to become Christian teachers. And if I were to think about it, I think that's what happened right here in Cambridge, which is a university. It's a place for teachers and students. God used people who are firstly students, willing to study the Bible, willing to learn it and take it to heart, but also willing to teach the Bible and to take it into the world. So, if you're a student anywhere in the world, but especially here in Cambridge, but as long as you're a student, one of the most valuable things you can do with your time, with your life, is to study the Bible, is to read, to understand, to obey what the Bible teaches us in such a way that you can teach the Bible to others as well. Cambridge is the birthplace, of every kind of student ministry. It all started here. If you have a Christian fellowship in your uni, know that at one point of time, the only place you could find that was here in Cambridge. And it all started here simply because God used His Word to speak to His people. And God used His people to speak His Word. Well, thank you for joining me on this journey here in Cambridge, here in my alma mater, walking down memory lane. Special hello to you if you're friends from the CCCF, old friends from uni. Take care and God bless.